Hey everyone, can you guys hear me? Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. So I went to this waiting room format just to kind of control who's coming in here. And there's Trinity. Okay, we'll wait just a couple more minutes to see if anybody else comes in. How's everybody doing? Do you guys want to unmute yourself? Are you able to do that?
I am good.
All
I
right.
brought my cat to cheer
Oh,
everybody up
thank
in
you.
their quarantine.
Our ongoing quarantine
Uh-huh.
with no end in sight.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
All the way until summer.
Oh my gosh, I know. We're all going to lose our minds before then.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna kill my whole family.
All right. Anybody else? Can you guys unmute yourselves? Or do I have some kind of a mute lock on you
No,
all?
we can
No,
mute
we
her.
can.
Okay, cool. How's everybody doing?
I'm tired.
Yeah, is everyone's energy levels just absolute trash now?
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have no motivation to do anything.
Yeah. All right. So looks like there's 15. I guess if anybody else pops in here, I'll just go ahead and add them. But we'll get started. Okay. So if you haven't been out on Titanium recently, I just uploaded a new one right now. But I went over to the characters that got submitted. This is Kim's that I took through the initial kind of merging stage and did an example of cleaning it up, and then also starting the face and the ears, getting the eyes in there. And then this one covers poly painting, putting in eyelashes and eyebrows. And then down here with Elizabeth's character, I took it from the initial kind of merge state that she had done and did sort of some adjustments and cleaning up, which we're going to talk about today. It's very easy for characters to start looking lumpy in here. If you're using a small brush, that will often start creating peaks and valleys on the surface of the model and creating this kind of cottage cheese look that you don't want. So there's some tools for that that help eliminate that lumpiness without constantly smoothing it. So sometimes smoothing works, sometimes it takes away detail and shrinks the proportions down, which can be good sometimes if you're trying to kind of narrow down an area. Smoothing sometimes is better than using the inflate tool, holding down the Alt key to have it deflate. Sometimes that'll just be too extreme. Okay, and got a couple more people coming in here. Hey, everybody. So I was just going over what was in titanium that I added this week. There are some videos in here that should cover a lot of what you're doing right now this week, which is getting your character polished. And there's sort of one more stage of polishing after this where you start putting in more of the detail, but this is kind of where you want to get your character this week in terms of kind of nailing down the proportions, cleaning things up, deciding how you're going to stylize it. So stylizing, if you're doing realistic characters, you're putting in every little detail of them. With stylized characters, you as the artist have to decide what you're going to kind of hone in on and feature on your character in terms of just the overall shape language. And if you study your, actually I'll pull up, go to shotgun here and look at those. Let's see. So with Elizabeth's character, she's got these kind of strong legs to her that don't narrow down very much at the knees. So I ended up emphasizing that knee area on her quite a bit. Since she's wearing a skirt and boots, you see her knees quite a bit. So that was an area that I focused on here. Some other areas are just this transition of the neck to the head. So some of you are kind of doing more of a round head and placing the neck smack in the center so it kind of looks like a lollipop. You want to push the neck more towards the back of the skull so that it kind of tapers into the back side here, and then leaving more area in the front here for the jawline and face and all that. Okay. So do you guys have any questions right now before we get started? I was going to do a demo on Jordan's character. I haven't done a male character for the class in terms of taking it through this state yet.
I do.
Who was that?
I do.
Okay.
I do have a question. On your email, you said instead of the red wax, use the bro paint. But when I try to use it on my software, when I try to save it, it still disappears. Does that make sense?
It does. So where you have to put it, yeah, things will show up and disappear. Even when I open up your guys' stuff over here, it disappears, and then I just have to reapply it. So if I bring, let me see if I have my character here. Go out to, usually you just have to reapply it is the thing, which is why I've got, if I go to full screen here, I've got mine sitting up here.
Oh, okay.
So let's say it comes in, I've got my materials off here. It comes in usually with the standard red wax color will get applied to anything that you open up. And then as soon as you click on this right here, or you access it through here.
Okay. So as long as we have a picture of it, you're fine with it, right?
Well, you should be working with it because you're going to eventually poly paint on top of this. This is a really good base material to paint over because it's white.
Okay.
You can't really paint over that red clay because you're gonna, or that red wax material. It just doesn't work very well.
When I paint over this bro bro paint, would it stay? Like if I
Yeah.
save it, or would it disappear too?
Let me see if I've got Kimberly's right here. So put that down. So the way it stays on here is, see this little paintbrush icon over here?
Yeah.
This is where your paint is going to get stored, the poly paint. So if I uncheck that, it's just picking up whatever I have on default right here. So see how I can change the color over here?
Yeah.
But as soon as I grab a paintbrush and I start painting a color on here, like this is what's going to get stored in this paint area right here.
Okay.
Yeah. So anytime you turn these off, it will go back to the default color. This fill object right here that I had you guys pull out and stick out here, which I can't remember where that's from. I think it's under brushes. Let's see where it is.
Did you ever give us those like cloth brushes and paint brushes? Oh,
Yeah,
'cause
they are in titanium under the resource folder. And then I've got some more for you guys too. I've got the hair ones that I'll give you this week. And I actually got the whole package of these SK ones right here. Right now, you guys have the SK clay fill, which is the one that fills in the peaks and valleys. So you don't have any kind of lumpiness to the character.
Oh, where could I find the brushes? Because I downloaded the pack, but I don't see them anywhere.
What do you mean you downloaded the pack?
Like the pack that you put on titanium, the resource pack, but I don't see the brushes.
Oh, let's go back to here.
Because I only see the orb brushes and the brushes we use for the prop.
ZBrush resources right here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the Zebra paint material.
Okay.
This ended up not working for you guys. I can get rid of that. I gave you guys the 3D character workshop. These are Shane Olson's brushes. And you're right, it looks like I did I not give you guys that fill one, the SK fill? Let me,
Oh no, you didn't give us the SK fill.
okay, well, that would be a problem, right? Let's get those in here. Let's add.
You also didn't give us the clay, like you know how in the first video you used that clay to smoothen your character?
Yeah, the SK fill one, yeah. Let me see where I have these guys. Is that one? Where did I download? So here's the hair one. Okay, so I'll upload that, and then let me find where I put those. Okay, so here's all of these guys here. So I'll add them like this. Guess I can just do one at a time. So that's the clay fill right there. That takes out the lumpiness. And there's another hair one, a little bit finer hair. And there's an airbrush. So that's for like poly painting. And then This is a pen, so more of a hard-edged brush. Okay, sorry about that, everyone. Let's see here. Here we go. All right. Yeah, so go ahead, download those, and then everybody remembers where they go out on in the program files, Pixel Logic, and ZBrush. You want to go into your Z startup files here, and then put them into your brush presets and drop them in here. This way they'll load up every time.
How do you add them to your hotbar again?
Out here, you want to go under Preferences, and you've got this config area right here at the top. So if you enable Customize, you'll see it kind of shift a little bit like that. And then for brushes, to get them to stick down here and not disappear after every time you close out and restart, you need to go and actually pull it over and dock the menu over here. So you can go to Brush, and I've got that little thing in the way there. Brush, grab this right here, drag the whole brush palette over. And then through here, you can, all of your brushes should be in here, or you could click this one here to open up ones that may not be in there. So let's say I want to add, let's see, like a trim dynamic or something. So I activate it here, but I don't want to grab this one right here. I want to actually grab it down here in the palette with Control Alt, and then you can drag it over to wherever you want to place it, let it go, like that. And then once you're done placing everything, you go back to Preferences, unclick that, and then save your UI. So you can save your UI out, and we'll just save it on the desktop for right now. And then if you want that, that user interface to load up automatically for you, you can say store config. So once you store that config file, ZBrush will look for that. Otherwise, it's going to go back to the standard default one, the one with the little orange menu pieces over here. And then to change your background color, which I kind of do during my sessions, depending on like the color that I'm working with. Once I start poly painting, like with this character, when I was trying to pull these eyelashes out, I had a dark background and I couldn't see what I was doing, so I switched to a light one. So if you want to change your background, there's this document background color. Once you click it and you hold your key down, you can come over here and drag around and start picking a different color. Okay. So I'll do something kind of neutral like that. And then mine's a solid color because I'm under documents right here. I took this range down. So I kind of like a flat color back there. So I just take the range down so it takes out that gradation on there. Okay. Any other questions?
I was wondering if you have any idea if we're gonna get the ZBrush extension to the end of the semester, because right now it's only until like the 1st of May.
Yeah, Andy said that he talked to Pixel Logic and they are extending it to the end of the school year, I think for all schools. I mean, we have a pretty expensive maintenance package with them, and we can't use our licenses at school right now, so they're extending free licenses to everyone. And I'll check in with him this week just to make sure we don't have any gaps where you guys lose your licenses. And they're good until the end of this month, is that right?
Yeah, I think it says like May 1st.
May 1st. Okay, so we'll make sure that we don't have any gaps.
Okay, cool.
All right. So this SK clay fill one is probably the most important brush that you're going to be using this week as you're starting to polish your character. This is the one that's going to kind of help with getting the lumpiness out of there. Okay, so let me go back to here and Jordan's character, like that. Okay, so I was going to go over this character here. And it explains why I'm seeing a lot of this lumpiness now that I didn't actually give you guys the tools necessary to kind of smooth this area out. So at this stage, I'm actually going to go full screen here. So good, you guys are keeping your subdivisions down pretty low here, which is good. So whenever you want to go back and start moving large areas of your character, it's good to slide down to your first subdivision level and then go back up. It just makes it easier to move things around. So just looking at the concept over here, I think the character's got a little bit longer legs and just some of the anatomy here. I know we're doing stylized, but it still has to follow kind of what we would expect anatomy to do. And this kind of curve along the inside of the thigh here is probably a little too extreme. So one of the first things, I feel like it's kind of angling out, and then this is at sort of a different angle down here. So I think the knees need to get sort of adjusted and pushed in a little. So see how that already kind of makes it look a little bit more like he's got his weight centered over the legs. And then with the calf muscle, this part's usually, this inner area right here sits a little bit lower and this one sits higher. And you want to have this offset, this asymmetry in the leg here, just because otherwise it starts looking more like, if it's even like this, it just kind of looks mirrored over and cloned. So we'll do that. And then let's see. Would say overall, like his legs, I'm just looking at the proportions over here from where his belt is down to his the back of his foot here. The heel is probably longer than what you have here. So if I look at his waistline right here, I think his legs are probably longer. So to do that, I would probably just like mask off an area. So you can draw a mask like this, and then I think it's this. So if you hold control down and you tap on the character, see how it's getting softer, the transition right there? So it fades it out and blurs it, so you don't have a hard edge right there. And then this will allow you to not affect the upper area here as you start to uh, kind of lengthen the legs down. So I'm going to do this and see if I can center it on here. So you can unlock this and then center it like this. And actually should be going that way. And the rotation's a little off. and then lock it, and then I'm going to try to do this. And sometimes you have to do this in pieces here, like it's doing more of this upper area right now, the thighs. So I'm going to go to here, do that. So that feels more in proportion with the concept art right there. So I'm just going to hit Q to get out of that. And then maybe just knock down this thigh area here. So with something like this where I've got like an area that's sticking out quite a bit, sometimes I'll just knock it down by holding down the shift key and blurring it a little bit or smoothing it a little bit. Okay, and then it's a good idea to also kind of tip your character in different directions to see the form. So we're losing some volume back here on the back of the calf muscle. So I'm going to just kind of round that out. Same thing here. Okay, so his hips are a little forward too. That's part of the stance he's got, but I would, he needs to get more of a curvature in the back here. So he's really built up a lot back here. So this would actually be going in more instead of coming out like that. But let's just kind of look at the character's pose right now. So I feel like that's okay. This is bulging out a little bit right here. So we want to have like a smooth sort of flat area up here in the front. Whoops, wrong key. Okay, and then sort of as I'm working, sometimes I sort of work all around the characters. I see different things. Like this area right here is a little flattened out. So I'm just going to lift it. That. But I'm also going to go back up in my subdivisions now. Now that I've got the legs in place here, I want to add a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go back and just go back up to that subdivision level there so I can put some detail in. And then this is a Shane Olson brush right here. It's a pinch tool. And he uses this tool a lot. It starts looking a little like Disney Infinity characters if you use it too much. But that's what this tool was designed for, to create some really nice edges. And the edges are usually going in where the bone is close to the surface. So the shin bone is a nice area to feature on the lower part here of the leg. So you can use this, make it a little bit smaller here. And if you just use it as is, it will go in like that. So you can see how it adds a nice crease there. But if you hold it down, hold down the Alt key, it will raise the surface. Okay, so you can do something like that to feature the shin bone. And then you want to kind of decide, where does it start from? So usually it kind of crosses over here and comes down like that. Whoops, I didn't hold the key down. There we go. So you can do that. So this is where you start kind of playing around and stylizing these areas on your character. So you can do that. And then usually down towards here, we don't see the bone as much. So I'll hold down the shift key and just lightly tap on that to start smoothing it out a little bit. Okay, so we get that. And then if I feel like it's off, because I feel like this is not quite on center here, I'll undo it and just kind of sort of like drawing, like you just sometimes you have to do it a few times to get it to land in the right place. Okay, so something like that. And then you can even use it to highlight some areas here, like, because what you're trying to do right now is just pick some areas that have more of a tighter edge to them that's going to contrast the softness in the curved areas. Okay, so usually it's where the bone is hitting the surface. Okay, and then if I do something like this, where I'm just using the tool or using the brush as is, it will cut into the surface. Okay, so now I've got like a nice area here that's standing out against the softness of the curves on the outside of the body. And then I'll look again kind of for areas that might be just a little off. Like I want really clean curves here. So I see this is coming down, it goes in a little bit, and then it comes out. So I'll go back and grab my move brush and kind of pull those areas out just so I have a nice clean line here. And then I'll turn it and just check and see if it's consistent. So this could go in a little like that. Okay. All right, so then just getting rid of this mask up here, you just hold control down and just drag across over here. Okay. All right, so then moving up to the upper body, just anatomically speaking, it needs some adjustments here, mostly on the back. It's also a little too thick up here as well. He does have a really big neck, but it's probably not sticking out that far right there. So usually you want to have some kind of reference up when you're doing this. So I'd recommend you guys just, building a folder that's got some anatomy references in it. And you can even look at other stylized characters just to see how someone else has done them. 3D, ZBrush, So I really like this character right here. He's got really just defined features, probably more so than what we need, but it breaks down the anatomy really clearly. Okay, and this character here, even though it's kind of low, you can kind of see the different features on here. So, try to have something like this to reference in addition to something that's more realistic that shows the characters, like the back, for instance. So the front of the character, if we look at this one here, it's taking us out to ArtStation. Actually, this is a really nice reference here. So if you have a male character, I would probably grab this just so you can see how they're not putting in all the detail. They're just putting in enough detail in the right area to show the anatomy and muscle structure on this character. Okay. So from the side view here of the character, this is the curvature that we want to get across the front of the torso. And then we can't really see the back because the arm is here, but we can see the shoulder blades back here sticking out, and then we can see his waistline back here that it's going in. I don't know if there's a better angle here. Here we go. So this is more of what it needs to do, Jordan. It needs to really taper in more like this, and instead of cutting in and creating a deep area underneath the shoulder, or this area right here, this bone structure, we want to build it up more and have it sticking out. You can put a little bit deeper line in for the spine right here, and then build the muscles up around it. Okay, so just going back here, if we look at this one, this is sort of what I was referring to, that you've got these deep edges going in here. So I would probably just kind of smooth some of these out. And this area right here, I would knock down and then get a larger brush and start pushing it in. Okay, same thing here. So sometimes I'll knock things down quite a bit, and then I'm just sort of clearing the way to start cutting in or drawing in some new areas. Okay, and then again, he's probably just too built up back here. So I would push this in. Like that. I think you got this really nice back here in terms of his neck. So he's got close to a straight line back here with his neck, with this little dip happening right here where the base of the skull meets the neck. So I think that looks nice. I'm going to knock these down just a little more. Okay, and then right here, this is probably just a little too busy as far as like the line quality right here. So I'm going to just knock this down a little and smooth it. Something here. And then before I start detailing that area, I want to just kind of get in here and deal with the pecs and the chest here. So this is kind of getting pinched in a little bit. So I'm going to just smooth this out a little. And then looking at it from the side. I think there's just too much of a cave happening here, and this is the top of the rib cage is sitting too low, so it's almost down into his stomach. So I'm gonna try and smooth some of this out. Whoops, wrong key. And so I can see this area right here where his lats are that are still probably coming out a little too much. Okay, and then this thickness right here. So I'm going to pull this back. And if you have a neckline that's coming in like this, the chin coming into the neck, you can use your mask right here to draw around and kind of preserve that area so it doesn't get messed up. And then again, if you hold down control and just tap on here, it softens that transition. And that way I'm not going to mess the head up there as I start pushing things back. So see how I can make an adjustment here without messing up the chin? Okay. And his shoulders slope down quite a bit. So I'm probably going to make an adjustment there. Okay, and then this area I think is just coming out too far. And then sometimes it's good to look from the top of your character down. I feel like his shoulders are coming forward a little too much and they could be pushed back a little. So let's push them back here. Oops. Okay. All right, and then this cut right here, if we go back to the that reference I had up here. So this area right here, especially on a male character, from the pecs to the deltoid, having this cut across here is really important to distinguish the transition from into the arms, going from the upper torso into the arms. So right now, there's a little bit of a indent right there, but we're going to put that back in. And then I'm going to try to pull these up a little. And then I'm starting to pull the rib cage out right there. Okay, so once I get it into this state right here, pull that out a little too. I'll come back and start using the pinch tool right here. And I feel like this tool is a little cleaner than using the dam standard. The dam standard, if I use that, it just, I mean, it works too, but I just feel like it's not quite as clean and it doesn't taper off as nicely, especially for stylized characters, than this 3D character workshop pinch tool, pinch brush. So you see how it drags? As I start dragging, I've got that line back there. I have a little bit more control over how I can angle it. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and then it's really pulling there. Come under here. And then I go back and actually look at the other one. So then you know, there's a lot of different ways you can treat this. Some people just go straight across and just kind of indicate a chest muscle, the pecs here. But with him, he's wearing that clothing that sort of shows a little bit more of his anatomy. So we're going to just go ahead and kind of fill that in like that. Okay, and then this area, I still feel like it's sticking out a little too far. Okay. All right, so something more like that. Okay, and then I'm going to come in, and this is a pretty standard way of treating the rib cage here. I don't think this guy has as many ab muscles showing on him than the one in the picture. He's got a little bit more softness in terms of the structure. So again, I'm going to grab the pinch tool and then drag it across here. So this one kind of cut in, and then I'm going to hold down Alt and go above that and then pull an area out. Okay, and I feel like it could be a little higher here. And then again, if I don't like it, I'll just kind of undo and start over. Okay. And then once I have that in there, sometimes I come in and use the move tool to sort of emphasize certain areas. So I'm sort of pulling the upper part of the rib cage out a little bit more here. And then usually towards the end of my edges here, I will, just to get it to taper off, I will usually tap it a little bit with the holding down shift and just smoothing that area. Okay. And then if I wanted something a little bit more chiseled here on the chest here, I don't think he really has that. In fact, I feel like I almost feel like it comes down more like this in the drawing. So I'm just sort of looking at this line coming down here. So I can do that and then do that again. And then if I want to build the area up here, push this down a little bit more. Grab the pinch brush again, make it a little smaller, and then hold down Alt, and then I can do something like that. And then just kind of tap in here to soften that up a little bit. Okay, and we're at a pretty low subdivision level right now. I'm just kind of blocking in the underlying shapes that I'm going to go for. Okay, so you'll be able to add a little bit more detail on this as you go up to 3 or even 4 in some cases. All right, so something like that. And then this area down here, you can sort of decide if you want to put some more detail in there. The areas that I might put in here a little bit more are just like through here, and then oops, this is a little low down in here, the poly count. Okay, so something like that, where I'm kind of indicating where his hip bone is. Oops, like that. And then just going back and smoothing it out a little bit. Okay, and then if you want to add anything in here, you can kind of just do something like that and just start roughing in where those are going to go. Okay. I don't think he really has this going on with his, he looks like he's a little bit softer there. So I would actually just kind of knock most of that down. Okay. And just keep it clean. All right. And then the arms. So actually, let's go to the back right now. So just kind of looking at how this is transitioning across here into the neck. So I'm going to start by just getting, oops, smooth that, getting the spine in. Okay. Oops. So if you're wanting something a little deeper, sometimes that dam standard will work better. You can also up the intensity on here. And then these are sitting a little high. So if we look back here at this guy, sometimes my Cintiq doesn't move the web browser. Okay. All right, so you could put in some of this detail in here. This is kind of a nice feature. And then the lats and stuff here, but it's probably a little bit more than what this character has in terms of the design. So I would just kind of indicate some areas that you want to have featured and have them stand out. So this is kind of an important crease right here. And then I might pull something across like that. And this area probably needs to get, I'm going to just soften that down a little bit. And then it's sort of caving in right here where it needs to come out. And then I might try to use the pinch tool again, holding down Alt and doing something that's probably a little extreme, something like that. And then again, coming back here and just softening some of the transitions. Okay. And then you can sort of decide if you want to go into all the lats and stuff like that. You might have a little bit of a buildup right here, and you could do something like clay buildup. So with my clay buildup, I have an alpha on here. I like to use this square one because it makes nice clean edges. And then for the stroke, I have just a freehand one. So usually the dots tend to default on here, which will sort of stagger. It tends to cause some of that cottage cheese peaks and valleys on your character or your surface if you use this. So just going to the freehand one and then kind of using that to build an area up like this. Okay, and then right now I'm just smoothing it. Make the brush a little smaller, smooth that. And then, so you can see it's starting to build up there. And then, so the clay fill brush here, usually you use it with a little bit larger brush. And if you have some areas that are just sort of, so I want to make sure the focal shift is up a little bit. So that's kind of the fall off on your brush. So you see how it's pretty tight here? That inner ring, if you guys can see that sliding. Okay. So you can tap some areas in here just to fill in like that. Okay. And then if it leaves a little dent behind, which sometimes it does on curved surfaces like this, usually I'll just go back and kind of touch it with the smoothing tool. And then if you lose any of the edge work in here that you put in, usually you have to go back and just kind of hit that a little bit more. Okay. And then up across here, the shoulders, what I like to do is use this pinch tool and I forget the name of it. It's the little bone that's right here on the top of our shoulders that sticks out. If you look back on the female characters that I did for the class, Go back to here. So you can see that little point right here. That's a really good feature to have on a stylized character. It really helps to transition from the shoulder down into the arms. So how I get that is using the pinch tool. I will kind of start from that point here and then drag across. I need to hold Alt down. Drag across this way. And then right here, it kind of just went up a little too much, so I'm going to knock it down. And I didn't quite get it right. So I try to get the curve as clean as I can, and it's dipping in just a tiny bit right there. So just undoing. And I feel like it's up too high now. Okay, so it's more. Like that. Okay, then I'll smooth it out right here for the neck transition, which goes more like that. Okay. And then coming across the front here with the collarbone, I'll do the same thing. Okay, so see how it makes that kind of nice, clean transition there into the collarbone? And then quite often I'll come back here with the move tool. This character doesn't really have it in terms of the design of this character. He's got really sloping shoulders, so he doesn't have a real prominent little bone that sticks up there. But usually when I'm transitioning from here, I'll pull that little point up, and then a little bit bigger brush here. I'll do something like that. Okay, so you see how it makes, you've got like a point here, a sharp point coming in with edges, and then going down into the curvature. But with this character, you can do that with him if you want to kind of go that way. Let me just go back here. But he's got more of a slope. So I would kind of do that, slope it more, and then I'm trying to round out some of these areas right here. And then just pulling back here, looking at his arms and stuff. So he's got almost cylinder shaped upper arms. He doesn't have a lot of definition in them. So I would take out a lot of that right there. I would just smooth a lot of this out and beef them up a little bit more because I feel like they're pretty big. And again, we can redo the mask. So I can come in here and do that. And then to reverse it, you can hold control down and just tap out here. That will reverse it. And then I'm just tapping on here, holding control down to smooth it a little bit. Okay, so this way I'm not messing up the body as I'm going in there. Okay, so I'm sort of knocking it down and then building it back up. So let's try this clay fill on here. And I think he's fuller back here. So I'm gonna just knock down the elbow right now and use let's try the inflate and try to build this area up. And see how it's getting lumpy? That's usually what happens. And then you can come back and hit that with the clay fill. So I'll switch over to that. So I tend to overbuild just a little bit, or do it in stages, just because, back to inflate here, both holding down shift and smoothing and this clay fill tool will tend to shrink things a little bit. Okay. So is this helpful for you guys to see this?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, very much.
cool.
Yes.
Sometimes I just feel like I'm over here in my own world, like blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if I've lost everybody or not. Okay.
I'm listening.
Yeah. Well, especially because
Yeah,
the other videos don't
listening.
really have dialogue, so hearing you explain it makes a lot.
Yeah, and the reason why, like, you can see how long this is actually taking me to do in real time. All those videos are sped up 2 times, so they're not an hour long, because I don't think you guys are going to sit through an hour of me noodling on a character. And I just, usually I'm pretty burnt out, and I just haven't gone back and done, I have to do voiceover on them. I can't record the dialogue as I'm doing it. So, yeah, we'll use the classes to kind of explain things. And I apologize for not giving you guys those tools. I thought I had uploaded everything. Yeah, and those are the tools that everybody's using. They are, Shane Olson uses them. He's got his own tools that he's made. I keep saying tools, they're brushes. But a lot of times they're just sort of modified ones that are already there, and he kind of stamps his own name on it. And then DreamWorks uses all these SK brushes here. There's actually a full set of them that I'll give you guys, but this is the main one that really gets used, is that clay fill. So I'm going to try to hit this again. And then just kind of pulling back here. So see how I kind of went overboard and kind of built it up a little too much. So I'm just going to, I've got a new keyboard. I keep messing up with it. Okay. So in this case, I am smoothing. I just feel like it's doing a little bit better job than the fill brush. Sometimes when you have something that's shorter like this in terms of, let's see who's in the waiting room here. There we go. Right. Some cylindrical shape like this, and you try to use this SK clay fill on it, it will kind of add more problems than solve it. So for me, sometimes I'll just do a build up with the like the clay like this, and then knock it down. Okay, so just kind of focusing here on the upper arm. I feel like it's there. This little point right here, that's coming from just how it did the Dynamesh. It's got a transition right here. So that's why that little peak is happening, and I can't really get rid of it until we probably either Dynamesh or do the Z remesh on it. Okay. All right, so that's feeling okay. Could probably use a little bit more work. I feel like it's still bigger up here. And you can see how big my brush is. It's pretty up there. So if you start doing this, where you're like pulling little things like this, that's what creates all that lumpiness. So try to avoid, let's see what I did there. Try to avoid that when you're moving larger areas. You know, try to use a pretty big brush. Okay. And again, just kind of checking from different angles. I can see I'm flat right here. So stylized is all about like having really clean lines, and then figuring out how you're gonna, you know, feature certain parts of the anatomy. And there's so many different ways to do that, and you know, different artists have their own kind of style that they get into. That whole Disney Infinity has its own unique look that Shane Olson came up with. Um, like this whole thing that I just did across the top here with the connecting the collarbone out here and then transitioning to the back. That's Infinity, Disney Infinity technique. But I feel like it's clean and it works well. And then you can always come back in here and kind of, you know, work some other areas around the neck if you want to. Okay, so I'm going to kind of leave that now for the upper part of the arm, and then the lower part. Um, as big as he has like no muscle on the inside part of his arm here. He's just got this kind of sweeping line right here, and then it pops way out here on the outside. So that's kind of a tricky thing to get without it looking weird, like something's wrong with him. But I think we should at least try to capture some of that where we push this down and try to capture that line. I hope you guys aren't hearing my son back there. He's really loud. Um, so that, so you see I'm just trying to get a really clean line here. And I turn it in increments and also look at it in different areas here, different angles. So you can see the clay fill is actually doing its job right here. I feel like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And then with this here, he does have pretty big wrists. So I'm going to pull this out and then try to get that angle there. And that I just kind of knocked it down by using the smooth right there. Same thing there. Okay, and also me having the body masked off like this prevents me from accidentally like grabbing an area when I'm working over here. Okay, so pulling this out more. And it's good to look down on the character here, especially with this type of material. You can see some of the areas where it gets darker. That's where it's indenting. So then you know, oh, I've got a problem there. So you can kind of come in here and hit it with that to try to fill it in. Okay. And then here I can tell another area that I'm flat right there just by the way the shadows are falling. And see, so it's not working there. So probably just gonna do a combination of moving it and then that and smoothing it down. Okay, so now that I'm here, I'm going to start putting in some detail. And I feel like I actually need to get rid of the mask and pull this down more like that. He's thicker up here. Maybe not quite that far. And then, so I pulled it out a little further than I needed to, and then I'm just hitting that a little bit with the smooth. Okay. All right, so proportion wise, I think it's fine. So with the fingers here, we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm not sure. I'll probably ask you a question about how you're thinking about doing the hands, but let's get these areas in now. Now that I've got the shape down, I want to go in here and define some areas. So I'm gonna make that smaller, and he's got kind of an area coming across here. And then I can start kind of wrapping it around here a little bit to get the elbow, and then either pull the elbow out a little bit like that, and then that's the wrong one. So I want it to come out like that. And then this clay polish tool is nice for flattening areas. Sometimes you have to mask it off because it will hit a large area. So you can draw those lines in there, and then you can kind of come back and instead of looking just like a crease in there, you can come back and sort of use the polish tool and push down some areas like that. Okay. All right, so something like that. Okay, so I still feel like this is probably a little bit lumpy looking. Needs a little bit more filling in so it looks more like a bone sitting there. So I might just do this and okay, so something kind of like that. And then I'm going to just knock these down a little bit so they're not competing with the pecs here. So it looks a little weird when they stick out a little too far like that. And that could probably come out. So maybe I'll just hit like an area like that, but not go all the way around, just so it's not competing so much. Okay, and then, whoops. And something like that. Okay. All right, so hands, Jordan, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Were you? Is this the palm of the hand here, or just sort of a placeholder?
It's the whole hand. I try to like do details on the hands, but every time I did it, he looked like Freddy Krueger.
Okay. You're probably going to have to. What I would do is turn this into the palm of the hand, and then add in using. I think you still have it in your scene here. The sphere is just create individual fingers here. Okay, and just like with
Uh,
my character, you want to try to pose them a little bit so they're not. You can also try making his fists too if you want to have him with a fist.
that's what I tried, but it was kind of hard because I didn't know where to put the fingers
Hmm.
towards his fist, so it kind of threw me off though. But
You might want to maybe even go out online and just do a little research as far as like just looking at do it right here, hands. Um, Sometimes more stylized. And then this kind of applies to everybody. I've noticed a lot of you having just like the fingers like straight out. You want to get some kind of pose to the character that looks a little more natural. Um, so here's a fist right here. So it kind of gives you a little detail of just like where to turn the corners, like with the knuckles. But I would come out here and just do a little research on kind of a stylized fist. So with him, like here's a really round kind of Mickey Mouse glove type one here. Your character has got more of an angle to the knuckles here, which are going to be important to capture. So if we go back here and look at him here, he's got a real obvious bend right here, turn. And same thing with his, like his thumb really protrudes out here. This looks like the fingernail, the top of the fingernail right here of the thumb, and then the first knuckle, and then the second knuckle. And with stylized characters, actually he's got two sets of knuckles here. Usually there's only one, but he's got a set of knuckles here, and then down here at the tip of the finger where it turns to curl in. So you can even do that separately. Like you could just start with a sphere and try to carve that in. You could also try it over in Maya, just making a hand in Maya. Maybe I'll try doing a separate video on making hands that are kind of simple and stylized. Hang on one second, I got a upset child here. Hang on. All right, can you guys hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so you could try a couple different ways of doing this, but I think trying to just, I don't know if you're trying to pull this out of the initial shape that you had here, or you had this hand separate at one point, but I don't think you're going to get it out of this shape. So I would almost just knock a lot of this down here, and wrong tool here. And make this more of the palm. Okay. And then, you know, maybe this could be up until these first set of knuckles. And then what you could do, the glove is going to cover this outside part, and then the fingers will stick out. So you're probably going to have individual fingers down here that you can make out of the sphere. Okay, and use inflate here just to thicken it a little. Okay. So inflate works nice to just kind of beef up areas like this. Okay, and getting the curvature here. And then if you hold down Alt, it will deflate. So you can dig in some areas here. Okay, so I would do this and then make individual, I feel like this video is going really long here on one character, but I could do this also offline demo for everybody. But it's just using your sphere, which I think, do you still have it in here? Did this get, let's see. There it is. So that's one of the eyes, it looks like. Okay. Yeah, that's inside there. So you might need to just append a sphere in there. And let's see where it's going. I guess it's right there. Here it is. So I had mirroring on, symmetry on, so it was doing that weird thing. So this would be the this area right here, the second part of the finger after the first. Actually, the fingers are starting up here. So yeah, this may have to get a little shorter here. And then back down on here. So I would kind of do each finger together. The issue is kind of going to be when you dynamesh this stuff together, when it's really close like that, it will create this webbing. I'll give you guys a video on how to clean that webbing up in between the fingers, because it's kind of a pain to like dynamesh it with the fingers all separated and then try to move them all back in. But there's a way to kind of clean all that up. Okay, so that one, and then I would just duplicate it. This one's angled up more like that. Okay, and then duplicate it again. And something like that. The tip of it, actually it's a little longer. Okay. So I think that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to do them individually like that.
Okay, just make it the finger small again.
Okay. Great. So is that kind of helpful for everyone? So with the feet, getting them flat here, use the trim brush and you know, just snap it to the side, holding down the shift key. So when you're turning it, you hold shift down, it will snap to the side here. And then with the trim brush, I want to make sure you got symmetry on here. I think it's on. Check one of my other brushes here. Here we go. There we go. Now it's on. All right. So this brush here, I think I showed this to you guys in another video, but it just trims off the bottom of the feet to flatten them. So Control Shift and then drag. And yeah, that's the only problem with it. I think we have to go down to here. And if that doesn't work, then yeah, it wants to delete the subdivisions, which I don't usually like doing. So I usually do this like earlier on. So the other method is probably just back to here and I'm trying to just draw like a little area under here. So you're just trying to get it flat. So it went all the way up the leg here. And let's take a look at the character here. So they are pretty flat. He doesn't have a heel or anything. I mean, I sort of like it when the tip of the toe comes up like that, but that's not really how this is done. So do that. Okay, so that sort of flattens it out a little bit more. And then just to anchor your character in the scene here while you're working, it's good to add, I usually just drop this cylinder in here and then select it and basically making a little platform here for the character to sit on. Okay, so it just kind of anchors it in the scene, and you can always turn it off if you find it annoying or it's getting in the way. You can just hide it. Okay. And then I think the only thing with the character I'm kind of seeing here is that it probably needs to arch back a little bit more. Just because the angle on the legs here. So either the legs need to come underneath more, or the body needs to, oops. I think I got it here. Oh, I'm on the wrong one. That's why. There we go. It's not recognizing it. Okay, so sometimes this thing gets really whacked out. Do that. Go. Try to just hit the center here. Sometimes if you just tap on the center of it, it will line up pretty well. Okay. And then close it. So there's going to be some cleanup down here where it's got that going on, or it's pinching a little bit. You can already see it's kind of helping it look like it's weighted right. Okay. Okay, yeah, so then there's just like some cleanup here where I would pull this out, make sure symmetry's back on. And then fix this area here. Okay, so see how he looks more centered? He's got the weight back here. And then you could even push the arms back a little bit more too. Okay. All right, so is that helpful? Go back up to here.
Yes.
Okay, and then for presentations, when you guys are showing your stuff here, you know, usually I'll snap one to the front view like this. So holding shift down, I'll snap it like that. And then kind of slide it into place like that. And I've got, I don't have my perspective on. So that would be perspective. If you want to turn it on, you can. It just kind of changes it a little bit. So you can turn perspective on or just keep it off. And then how I'm getting multiples in the scene is just holding down shift and hitting S as in Sam on the keyboard. And it makes a duplicate. So then if you hold down Alt and you just drag over, you've got another one in the scene. And then I can snap that one here. And then shift S again. So it's basically just throwing it into the buffer. I'll do like a 3/4 or something like that. Okay, and then his eyeballs are really, I messed up his eyeballs really bad. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can pull them back. of messed up here. Yeah, they're totally messed up. So we'll just turn those off for right now. And you can see that it's, where's the other one at? There we go. These ones right here are already buffered into place here. If I do Control N, it will get rid of those. So it's only leaving the live one in there. And then I can do Shift S. Whoops. Again. Pull it over. That. Okay. And then you can't go back and like adjust those. It's only the one that's live like that. These are just basically buffered into the canvas right there. And then you can just take a screenshot. That, save it. Okay. And that's just kind of an easy way to do a presentation. Instead of like uploading multiples, you can put everything in one area like that. You guys have any questions?
I do.
Okay.
How do you work the master lasso, and how do you deactivate it? Because I had trouble using it.
So this is found under here, under the different masking tools. Where is it? There it is right there. So as soon as you activate it, it tells you what to do to use it. So it's holding down the control key. So we'll do that. So if I hold down, let me just clear the scene here. Yeah, so if you hold down control with that activated, see how I get the mask here, and then I start drawing.
Yeah.
I can do that. Okay, and if I've got symmetry on, it will do both sides for me automatically. And then I can hold down control again and tap on the character here and see how it smooths that. And then I think it's control alt tap again will give you a hard edge like that. So if you want a harder edge masked off, you can do it that way. Okay, and then to get rid of it or to reverse it, let's say I want to work on the arms. So I did a masking on the arms, and then I want to reverse it. I can just come out here, hold control down and tap, and it will invert my selection. And then if I drag out here, it will release everything. Okay, so it's either clicking or dragging is what releases those or reverses them.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor.
Okay. Anything else? Does anybody want me to take a look at their character and where it's at or have questions about it? I've got most of them downloaded.
Allison wants to see hers.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't looking at the chat. Thank you. Let me put this in here. Here. Okay, Allison. Let's see. I don't know if I saw it out there. Did you just upload it? I need to get the chat open here. Let me just see where it's at. Box, update it. Okay, there it is. All right, so we'll download. And that's weird. Am I not seeing it on here?
Did you upload it to Titanium or to Shotgun?
It's right here. It's in Dropbox. I'm downloading it. And I'm using Chrome, so I'm not real familiar with where things go here. So it should be in here.
Carol, up at the top, I seen it pop up saying that the download was blocked.
Uh-oh. Where does it say that?
Back over in the Chrome browser, when you clicked on download,
Here?
like, yeah. Or you see next to the star, the bookmark star, there's
Here?
a, yeah.
Ah, yeah. Okay. Let's see if that does it. There it went. Okay. No. Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to put that on here. There we go. All right. So let me pull up the chat. Where is it? More chat. There we go. Okay, Allison, so is this just the block out right here? Is that where you're at? I don't see any subdivisions on here. It sort of looks like what it is. Okay, so these are still individual pieces then. Okay. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think I just made that one comment. It actually doesn't look as strange as I thought it would, but I would probably pull these forward a little more just because they're coming straight out. I mean, you can model it this way. I think just if I remember correctly on your character, it had some pretty extreme like elbow and wrist angles on it. So you may want to try to capture that. Maybe have these come more to the, oops. So when this goes on here, when you've got them on multiple sides like that and they're not lining up, usually what I do is just split them out and do one hand. So you can, I'm not sure why they're not following correctly. Just undoing here. Doesn't seem to be undoing. There we go. All right. So usually with this on right here, this will be local symmetry, but it's not working. It's still following. There it goes. I think I didn't have my symmetry on. Okay, so here we go. So I would just pull these guys here and then rotate. Yeah, see the rotation's not working. There it goes. So each one I just have to make sure I hit Z or X to get it working with symmetry. Did it again. And there. Yeah, just leave some space between here for now until you dynamesh everything, just so you don't have like all that webbing going on. I would do that. And yeah, and I think that's just where you're at right now. I mean, you can come in here and look at, see if I can find your character. I think that was it. Okay. All right. I would just work on getting just some of the shape language in there before you dynamesh it. It will just save you some time to do it at this stage here. So like with this right here with the leg, I feel like it's just wider down at the bottom and it's angled a little more like that. So that just doing that alone just brought out the point there for the joint. And then you can use the inflate tool and just making sure I've got symmetry on. Just filling this in a little. So mostly in the blocking out stage, you're just inflating and moving. You're not really, and then smoothing. You're not really using any sculpting tools at this point. You're just trying to block in real basic shapes and just try to keep it as clean as you can. So something like that. And then areas where I feel like it could be a little, no, I don't think it needs to be too much narrower here. You can just use the move tool and push it in a little. That. And this is where it's better to try to get the feet flat than after you do the dynamesh. So see how they're all kind of in different areas right there. So try to do that here and just snapping it. And the legs are a little close. You're going to have a problem right here with this shape when you dynamesh. They're going to merge. So you could do that. You may want to try angling them out a little more like that. Okay, and then same thing here. And then with the toes, I would keep them separate right now, just so you don't have a bunch of cleanup to do. And then just be careful this doesn't get real close here because that will also merge the tip of the toe. Yeah, so something like that. And then you can come back in here. I'd even make this one a little bit smaller to start with. Like that. And then for cleaning up the, go to the side here, just to flatten out the bottom and get them all lined up, I would kind of do this, line them up, and then use the trim brush here. So it's Control Shift and then doing that. So you see how it kind of cleans up the bottom there. You can either do this now, or you can do what I did with Jordan's character, which is just using that trim dynamic and flattening it out. That might be a little too much. I mean, they look pretty flat here, but you might be able to just do that once you've gotten the Dynamesh done here.
She wants to know how you do that again.
Oh, this here for the feet, or the toes rather. I'm trying to pull this one out here. I don't actually think they need it. I think this actually looks nicer, but I'll just show you here. So I'm just kind of straightening it up so it looks even. Okay. Okay, so I'll select this one right here in the middle. I'm going to snap it so that it's straight across here. So that's just holding down the Shift key, and then it will snap to the side. So this is the trim curve tool right here. And then whenever you activate it, it tells you what keys to hold down. So it's Control Shift, hold those down, and then I'm dragging across this way here. So you can kind of see that shaded area. I'll do it right here. That shaded area is what's going to get eliminated and cut off. So if I switch the direction, let's say, and I go this way, and that darker area is facing up, it's going to take everything off in that direction. So it depends on the direction that you draw this. So you can draw it in different angles too. So you can use this for a lot of different things for trimming off areas on your character. Okay, so again, just coming across here, doing that. There. So you can see it did that. And then you can always come back here and just kind of soften. It's too much, my brush is too big. Soften that transition a little bit because it can be a little too much. And I sort of feel like if you just use the polish, like a trim dynamic on here, and went across the bottom, this is after you subdivide and have a little more to work with. If you just do this, I think this would actually look better.
It's really hard to use the polish brushes without the Cintiqs.
Oh, guys don't have Cintiqs. That's right. Then I would do, let's see here. I would use just a mask pen. And with the mask pen, you can draw in an area like this. So I can draw the bottom, and you should be able to do this with the mouse. And then again, if you want it like a harder edge right there, you can hold down Control Alt and tap, and you'll get a harder edge like that. And then come out here and hold Control and tap and reverse it. And then you should be able to like use the either trim dynamic or something, and then come in here and flatten this out a little bit. It looks pretty rough just because there's not a lot of geometry to work with. Okay, so do something like that instead, I think, to kind of flatten it. And it flattens it enough. I don't think it should be like perfectly chiseled flat like a piece of metal. Okay, getting the shape is probably more important here. You know, just making sure that things are, got the move tool, yeah. Capturing more of that shape language than anything. I probably need a bigger brush for this. And inflate probably works better in here, so you've got a little more control. Doesn't the school have, not that we have access to the school anymore, didn't they have Wacom tablets? Does anybody know? Over in 184? Does anybody know? I could probably ask Andy and see. Just wondering if we could get those out to you guys so you have a tablet of some sort to use. How many of you are stuck without using some kind of a pen for this? Is that most of you?
I'm using one.
You're using one? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Okay. I mean, I've done whole characters without ever, they didn't even have Cintiqs back then. So I think what you have to do is just make sure that you're setting your intensity. So this is like how intense the brush will affect the surface. So this is just holding down the space bar, affecting that, and then affecting your focal shift, which is the fall off on the brush here. Okay. I think that'll probably help you guys a lot in terms of like transitioning, since you don't have a pressure sensitive surface. Okay, and then Allison, just like that would kind of be my main feedback at this point, and then areas like this that are really close to the center. Whoops, on this area, I would, whoops, I've got the wrong tool here. Push this back. And pull this area out so you've got like a nice clean shape like that. And I feel like the legs just kind of need to come out a little bit more, and they're less into the body and more kind of out here. That. So where you have these little wavy areas right here, usually one part of the geometry is a little off. It's probably this one here. So if you smooth it, see how I have a cleaner shape right there? So you've just got like an area that's pulled out. So you can kind of go around the edge here and smooth that a little bit. And pull that up. Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking at the transition here. So I think that does come down like that. And then this one, come on. I'm noticing that there, it's a little off. I don't know if I did that accidentally. I may have done that by not having symmetry on at one point. Okay. Yeah, as much as you can get the shape down at this stage here, it will save you a lot of time, like sculpting and just sort of noodling the whole character. Okay, so this one here, I would probably get rid of that. And that seems okay. Oops. Okay, so see how I kind of work to get these really cleaner lines that aren't wavy? So it's sort of a back and forth of smoothing an area and then pulling out another area. Okay. And then here, kind of the same thing. So smoothing. And then this area here, it's just, if I turn on the lines here, it's just getting pulled. That's what's going on there. When you Dynamesh and then use Z-Remesher, a lot of that will go away. Sometimes if you hit it with the smooth tool, it will clean up a little bit. That. And then I'm just pulling back here and looking at the silhouette. So and once this is Dynamesh, you'll really have more control over getting that really clean line that is going across the back and down the tail. And this area is kind of sticking out too far. It's really just sort of sweeping down like that. So I would take this and knock it down here. Oops. So that waviness is caused by the lumpiness on this piece here. So I'm going to just smooth it and then pull it out. Yeah, and it's a little off here. Something's, you'll probably have to make a few little adjustments. It might just be me with the not using symmetry all the time. Okay, and then this transition here up into the neck, it gets thicker. Instead of pulling back, it actually comes out more. So I would make sure you've got that there. And Let's see, you've got another piece in there. Okay. I don't know if you need this one. I guess it's part of this. So, okay. There, just kind of round this out a little bit right now. I'm not sure if you need that one. There we go. Let's see what happens when we take that off. I think you can get it from this one. And then I think it kind of comes down like that for the little hair to kind of pass through there down the neck. So we'll leave that. Yeah, and I feel like that comes down more like that. He's got a tricky silhouette. I think it's just going to take a little playing with to get it right. Like that kind of comes out here. And actually, I'm looking at this one over here. It kind of pinches down in there, like see how the neck sort of bows this way? I think that's sort of what I'm missing on mine here, that it should probably there we go. Come in more and then flare out more here. And then this looks to be kind of more narrow through here. Yeah, so just as much as you can kind of clean up the character at this stage, do that to save yourself time. And I feel like this piece, okay, is kind of going too far over the top of the character. So kind of see the arch in the back, but this piece here, which I can't seem to get, I've got too big of a brush. There we go. Try just sinking it in there like that. Yeah, so see how they're a little off like that? There we go. Did somebody have a question? So it still needs a little more work. I feel like the head needs a little bit more shape to it, but it's great that you have this front view right here to get these angles down and get the eyes in there. So go ahead and make the eyes. They look like they're cheated a little bit, like they may actually be flat. I try to have you guys mostly do round eyeballs. That usually pertains more to human characters. But once they start getting kind of cartoony and stretched like this, you may want to go ahead and, flatten it down a little bit, more like a disc. And let me see. Okay. All right, so is that helpful, Allison? And I'll go ahead and save this. Okay. All right, anybody else?
I have to go get ready for another class. Is this recording going to be posted?
Yeah, as soon as I'm done here, it should just process, and then I'll upload it out here to Titanium.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be down here with the other ones. Okay, and then, be sure to look at these, especially if you have a female character. This really pertains to pretty much everybody that's working on a female character. And then, yeah, it'll be posted right under here. And then I'm going to post 2 of Shane Olson's videos that go over hands, including Dynamesh when you get that weird webbing between the fingers when they're kind of connecting. And then just a example of him using some of his brushes to stylize a character, a female character. So those will be posted under here. All right, anything else? So for this week, try to get your character into this state here. Actually more closer down to here. Like start, when you get the eyes in, at least get this far into the eyes here where you're poly painting in the pupil and all of that, depending on how it looks. It's just kind of important on your character, since we look at the eyes so much, that you get the eyes painted. It's easy to do. You'll need to subdivide your eyes up to at least 3 or 4 to get a clean edge on it. Otherwise, it's going to look really low poly or pixelated. So with the eyes, it's okay to just keep those separate and then subdivide those up to 3 or 4 and then paint those and get them placed in there. You don't have to worry about painting the body yet, but this does go into the beginning of poly painting. I did eyelids on this character different than how I would normally do eyelids because the character's actually got a closed eye. I went ahead and duplicated the eyeballs, and then I used that trim tool and cut them off, and then use that to create the eyelid with, which is a technique that some people like to do instead of sculpting it in. And then on I think it was this character here. I didn't quite get the eyelids in there. I started forming them a little bit, but I'll probably, move forward with one of these 2 here in terms of probably this one down here. this is the same character I was just talking about. So I'll take Elizabeth's character and like finish out the eyelids. She's got a little bit more stylized look on her character. So I'll just do it more like a general eyelid on there so you guys can see how that is. The big thing about the eyelids and let me load up another character here. Both eyelids and ears is getting the thickness on the flesh so it doesn't look paper thin. Let's see. I think they are back. Spacing out here. I need to eat. Let's see. Do this one here. So yeah, so the eyelids here are still separate. There they are. So I could take them off. This is just painting on the eyelid there. So if I take the paint off of the character here, you can see what I did with the eyelid right there. I created some thickness like that. And that was using the pinch tool. So I just came around the edge with the intensity and size down here. I just came around the edge of it, holding down Alt, and I created an edge like this to pull that out, just so I created some thickness there. And then with the ear, you can see that in the video, I used the clay buildup and came out here and just built up the thickness. So I did a combination of this. Oops, just hit the character there. So with something as thin as your ears, make sure you've got your back face on. This is under brush. And oops. Down here, it's auto masking and back face. So if you don't have that turned on and you're up here like doing this work and whatnot, you're gonna like pull the back part in. It's gonna do the opposite. So you want to make sure you've got back face masking on for that. But a lot of the ears I'm seeing so far are coming to almost a paper thin little edge here. And you want to, make them pretty substantial and, get them kind of chunky looking in here. Okay. Oops. Same thing with the jawline. I just used the pinch tool and did this. And then I came back and softened some of the edges a little bit so it wasn't too harsh. Okay. And, this character is ready to subdivide. You can see how there's not much going on right here with the lips. So if we subdivide it, you can start working in here a little bit more. Okay. Getting some more detail. Okay. Same thing with the nose. Once you subdivide, so I'm up to 3 right now. That's wrong one. You'll get some cleaner edges like that. They'll start to stand out more. Okay. All right, everyone. So this recording will be up probably in a half hour or so, but we'll try to get your character this far. Also get the hands on there too. Try to pose the hands so they're not, the fingers aren't straight. They've got some curvature to them. And we'll be back here on Monday. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much.
All right. Thank you.